Doug Carr, Scott Anderson, 97 won the ticket. Look, I don't like to use the term smart signing or sensible signing or these are cheaper signings.
Sensible shoes. You like that?
Sensible shoes. These are sensible shoes. I think what they've done is tantamount to buying insurance at a really good cost. You got a really good policy, and it's not exciting, but it's necessary. But they haven't big ticketed this thing. They have not gone with a BM gate or a big move. It's been when you say sensible, that implies it's going to be great. And I don't want to use like Amik Robertson. Excuse me. This is a guy. A lot of times you can tell. One of my ways of figuring out what a coaching staff thinks of a player is how did the previous staff use that player? He was kind of a part-time player for them, who in his role was very good at his job, but he played 60% of the defensive snaps each of the last 2 years. So he wasn't a frontline starter, but he was a contributor. And he played some nickel corner, and he was, lined up on slot receivers and lined up outside. They used him in a variety of ways, and he made some plays for them. But the question is he going to do the same thing in Detroit? Is he competing for a starting role? If he is he up to it? I feel like the Lions have had guys that are kind of like this. Hey, this Jerry Jacobs isn't bad. Hey, and then if you give him a bigger role, you go, well, maybe he was perfectly cast as a role player. So is Amik Robertson going to come in here and just be a role player, or is he challenging for a starting spot? The way they paid him, he was with the Raiders last year. He was one of those players that was emerging that the Raider people thought he's going to be hard to bring back because he's going to look for a payday, and he's not a full-timer for them. So, I don't know how else to describe him other than maybe he's like a cornerback version of a Malcolm Rodriguez. You like him. He's playing for you, and he's making plays when he's out there, but he's not a frontline guy. Now, Robertson, I think, played more percentage of the snaps than Rodriguez does here in Detroit, but still, I'm trying to look at a comp to let people understand what I think they're getting. And so do you approve of this approach? Their approach to free agency is the big overriding question today. Do you have anything else to add before we get to the phone calls?
No, I'm wondering the whole Carlton Davis trade. My question about it, it's not a concern, it's a question. Did they trade for him to sign him to a long-term deal, to an extension, or did they trade for him just they're going to have him this year and that's it? That's a third-round pick.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a lot.
I'm not sure.
And if they are going to sign him, what are you planning on signing him for? Because this guy he's making $14 million for this season. And he has not been healthy at all in his career. So is this a guy that you're envisioning handing a 3-year deal at roughly the same money? Is this going to be a 3-year, $45 million deal?
I'm not sure. I'm really not sure because a third-round pick is a lot to pay for a rental,
Yeah, for a rental doesn't have a track record of playing every game. And, okay, he has potentially a good corner, but this isn't like somebody who's going to get you 8 interceptions a season, right? If I'm going to go for a rental, I'd rather have the rental that's a pass rusher that gets to the home run on the quarterback about a dozen times.
Kang, any thoughts before you get to the phones?
The Carlton Davis thing, as we know right now, the deal hasn't been reworked yet, so I'm working on the information we have, which is this year only at $14 million a year. To me, this is almost like a trade deadline deal done way before the trade deadline. You know what I mean? Like, hey, what did people want for Chase Young? Probably around a third-round pick, right? This is a guy that they needed, that they're willing to give up some draft capital to help the team right now, which is 2024 season. So that's how I look at it until they rework this deal to 2 or 3 more years, extend him, rework it so the $14 million cap hit's not so big. I look at it as a trade deadline deal that he just made before the season.